I'm Guy Kestevan, the Tester Man, and this is my top 10 list of things what I have used for the first time in 2024. What has impressed me the mostest? As if you watch my top 10 bikes of 2024, you'll know it'll probably include a lot more things than that and go flying off on all manner of tangents as I work through it. And there are some products in this which came out pre-2024, but I've only just started using them this year. There will be another top 10, if this one proves popular, like the top 10 bikes did, that will be things that I started using previously, but I only realised how good they were in 2024. So there's a bunch of stuff that you might see me using a lot in the workshop. I mean, I'm lucky enough to test a huge amount of kit from the very, very high tech to the quite small and affordable. And so, as ever, anyone's top 10 list is not going to be perhaps your top 10 list, but hopefully I can open your eyes to some possibilities that work for me as primarily a sort of XC stroke trail mountain biker and gravel rider. But I'll also be discussing some of the heavy hitty stuff I've used as well, where that's relevant. But what I do need to say is, in the same way that 100% didn't actually know they were sponsoring the top 10 top bikes, I'm going to say big thanks to the Design for their support this year, with sponsoring the channel, with hardware like the pumps, like the workshop tools, mini tools, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Lights, of course, lights. I did a video saying why I like Design lights the most. And if you're into your lights, I'm sorry it's way late in the season, but there's a whole slew of lights tests coming up. I've just finished the MBR lights group test, which was meant to be 8 lights. I ended up writing up 10, but to narrow it down to 10, I actually tested 18. So you're looking at a ton of lights reviews coming your way very, very shortly. And we're only a couple of minutes in and I've already lost the track with this top 10. So let's refocus. Everybody, you press that subscription button down in the corner if you haven't. That is my one wish to Santa, is that more people who are watching these videos actually subscribe, because tons of you watch them, not everyone subscribes, and obviously if that subscriber number goes up, so does the great word of YouTube telling other people about it. So hit that button. But if you're already subscribed, the best thing you can do is tell your mates that there's an old bloke who has happened to ride a lot of mountain bikes over the past nearly 30 years, standing in his workshop or standing on a hill or riding about through the woods. Not always, and this particularly beautiful kind of knitwear. £4 from Seabay in Scarborough, which I just think is worth going into just for the name alone. But anyway, me and the Christmas Fairy are going to stop waffling on, and we're going to crack into that top 10 now. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and hope you can get something from it. So, first up, literally, I mean, this, talk about a late entry, literally got this installed this week, but it is my stashed racking system. Super pleased that those guys reached out through a mate of mine, Neil, used to work for White. He's now their kind of on the road guy, and he came around this week and installed a 12 hook sliding bike rack. And already, literally, I've had it a few days, and even just getting this video together, when you see me start pulling up, details of the bikes, just rather than having those bikes fighting amongst them, to try and get the bike I want out, because inevitably the one I need now is the one in the middle, not the one at the end. However much I try and plan these things, that's just the way it rolls. So being able to separate the bikes, spin them around, hang them different ways up, has just already this week, and just for this video, proved to be a huge advantage. So not cheap, I mean, compared to, my DIY rack I had before, but the way it's made and the convenience it gives you, if you're regularly working in a space with, maybe you've got restricted space or you've got multiple bikes, then boom, stashed rack, absolutely outstanding. Also high tech, also very expensive, and again, probably not that relevant to a whole bunch of people, but you can't ignore Flight Attendant from Rockshox, both XC and DH, has made a big impact on racing this year. I was lucky enough to ride it first on the Specialized Epic launch, the new Epic 8. On the S-Works, comes as standard with that. I've ridden it again on a Blur from Santa Cruz with Flight Attendant on it. And my Sorcerer's Apprentice, since he was a proper nipper. James Bland has been working as Lucas Shaw's mechanic this year. And Lucas Shaw and Troy Brosnan particularly had a lot of success this year with Flight Attendant on the downhill scene. If you don't know what it is, it's basically an AI air hostess that means you have first class suspension travel for wherever you are in your flight. So for the cross-country side, the long-haul side, it's actually linked into the power meter in the bottom bracket, and it also has a whole load of accelerometers and sort of angle sensors on it. So basically, it knows exactly where your bike is in space and how much hammer it's getting through, plus how much power you're putting through, and it moves you through several mode states depending on the effort you're putting in. So it'll put your bike in either fully open, in pedal, or locked, depending on what that deems to be most efficient through an algorithm. Now, the really, really smart thing is that the more you ride the system, the more the algorithm learns sort of where your power sweet spots are, and it responds to you. So even though I only rode it for a couple of days in Chile with Specialized, by the second day, it was already significantly better matched to me. And I have to say, we've seen it first off. I think Shirty was one of the first people to ride it last year on Scott's, and now there's a dedicated Scott Spark with it built in, and loads more bikes, top-end bikes now, are coming with Flight Attendant. Actually first appeared for Enduro, but, well, A, I didn't really seem to catch on as much there, and B, well, it's Enduro, so that market seems to be up in the air at the moment, because it's either all-going e-bike, or it's just going to what happened to Enduro. But then again, bit of an upheaval in XC, which I'll be talking about in a separate video as well. God, crikey, sorry. Anyway, Flight Attendant XC, yes, it adds a bunch more batteries to your bike. Yes, it's expensive. But if you want proper performance and that sort of optimized suspension for wherever you are racing, whether that's downhilling, I don't even know if it's even commercially available for downhill yet. But anyway, it's that whole thing where, you want the bike to pedal fast or you want it firm through certain corners. It senses all that through the brain, for want of a better word, even though that's how Specialized described theirs, and it's not brain, but it senses it like microseconds. It's sampling all these different sensors it's got on board, and then that delivers through the algorithm. Again, interesting, developed by someone who normally did guitar pedals previous to this, so someone who's really, really attuned to sort of human harmonics versus electrical impulses. But crikey, this is going on. There's a full Flight Attendant video on the channel if you rummage about for it. So go watch that if you're really, really into the idea of having optimized AI suspension. And let's just leave it for there. And then we're moving on to suspension again. We are talking about, and again, another Specialized product. Flight Attendant is a Specialized product. I just met it there first and it debuted with them. But we're now going to Fox and we're going to the Genie Shock, which, whereas Flight Attendant is all electronically based, Genie Shock is just a very, very clever spacer system, essentially put in a sleeve around their regular shock. And what it lets you do, literally within seconds, we were kind of doing Formula One style pit stops on the Stump Jumper launch. It's currently only available on the Stump Jumper and the Levo, I believe. Is it Levo or Levo SL? Anyway, one of the two. And I imagine it'll be coming up on... it's almost like I glitched and didn't tell you about the bike that will be launched slightly later in the year from Specialized. Anyway. Basically, you whip the sleeve off, depressurize it, whip it off, and you can change the spaces inside it. So you can either have that extra air can fully open, or you can have it shut, but it only applies to a certain segment of the travel. So you either have a very linear sort of coil shock style feel, or a more sort of uptight, pedally taut XC feel, which personally was how I preferred it. But being able to kind of go, yay, feels like a coil, pull all the spaces out, big, much deeper in stroke, more use of the mid-stroke more of the time, felt amazing. And while again, I only used it for a couple of days over in Vancouver Island to Specialized, hopefully got the alloy stump jumper coming very shortly, which has that standard, and I'll be able to dig deeper into that and sort of explore the potential of that. But again, if you want to see more, then go check out my Specialized stump jumper videos from that launch. Which moves me on to number 4. Right, we've done big workshop things, we've done big electrical things, we've done slightly niche things only available on Specialized stump jumpers and levers at the moment. Now we have something that you can attach to pretty much any mountain bike, should you so desire. The new Peaty's Monarch grips. Now, you know, cards on the table, I'm sponsored by Peaty's, well, the channel's sponsored by Peaty's, and I actually, one of the few people who's been sat, is it arrogant to say this? Well, I'm kind of halfway through saying it. Who is savvy enough to go, Kez tests things for a living. Maybe we should get him to do some testing on our stuff to see whether he likes it or not before we release it. And yeah, I did some testing on the Monarch grips. And it's quite interesting because before this, I hadn't really bothered with grips. They just came on bikes and they were what they were. I didn't realise how much they could really, really change the ride. But working through loads of different iterations of different grips from Peaty's, and also immediately starting to pay a lot more attention to other grips from other brands. And there's been some it's been a great year for grips, mate. It really has. New Bergtech's meant to be very, very good, kind of like a glue-on feel. DMR, I've got the new Death Grip 2 out. I've tested a load of lizard skin grips that I got on with. Some of them got on with them really, really well, particularly like the Gradient. And who else? Come on. Tip of my tongue. Oh, if you really like a floppy mushroom grip, then Raceface Chester. This is like one of those sort of best of hits. PNW do a nice grip as well. So, and maybe unsurprisingly, there's bits of many of those grips in these. Come in thick and thin, come in 5 colours, come in mushroomy or knurled. Again, really like the knurled for more aggro riding, like the mushroom for longer distance stuff. That's what I used on Trials Early when I bike packed that this summer. But you've just got, you've got grip bars underneath. You've got a little bit of mushroom section, but with a slight wave on it, so it doesn't completely distort. You've got narrow clamps on them, which you can get different colours of clamp on them. So, these ones matched them to my Trek Top Fuel build. They are recycled ocean plastic. So the dolphins will be terribly pleased. Sorry, the cores, tapered cores. So they knock on nice and securely, and the whole grip is offset asymmetrically as well, so there's more cushioning on the back of it. You see, I never knew you could go into so much detail with grips. So it's been a very educational process. And, at the end, I've graduated with some grips that I particularly enjoy using, and having been, and from their sales, and having been on Peaty stands at Hard Rock and places like that, these have been super bloody popular, and deservedly so, because they are, like I say, a bit of a best of grip, and just, nice things like, you can pretend you've got a motorbike when you're trying them out. I think, it's a really nice thing. And, recycled cardboard in the middle. So again, it's a big thumbs up from Greta Thunberg and our friends as far as possible with these grips. Which brings me on to another massively important contact point that, again, I've used all sorts of socks for a long old time, because socks are kind of the international currency of journalist bribery. That shows how cheaply we come. We'll do anything for a free pair of socks, is the word on the street, which isn't true, I'm afraid, but I'm not going to tell them that because it's nice to have fresh socks all the time. But what I would say is, if I had to pay for socks, these Bridgedales are absolutely outstanding. These are the summer weight ones, because frankly, both my pairs of mid-weight ones and my winter weight ones are needing washing. I mean, to be fair, they don't need a whole bunch of washing, because those are a Merino blend. These are a Cool Max blend. But again, so much tech in these shocks in terms of padded areas, in terms of being asymmetric for different sides in terms of ventilation, in terms of the different fabric mixes for each summer, winter, or mid-season. And since I've got them, I haven't worn anything else on the bike. So, and a bunch of colours, men's and women's fit as well. So, yes, you can buy much cheaper shocks. You can go to Primark or Sports Direct or whatever and just, get some generic socks. But the difference in having socks that properly look after your feet and ankles is dramatic. Especially if you're a creaky old like me, who needs all the help that they can get when it comes to keeping their fetlocks and their feet fettled. Oh, and they're made in the UK, which, I'm getting viewers from all over the world now, but quite happy to be patriotic about my hosiery. So, rah, rah, UK made. Another, again, it's been a great year for grips. It's been a good year for suspension tech as well. But a particular rich theme seemed to be brakes this year. There was the Sram Maven. Crazy powerful, huge brake, super powerful. Had a few hiccups early on, I think we can say that now. If you watch the Sram Maven install video I did with Alex from Sram, we went through Padabants, which is the Chase and Status inspired sort of multi-bleed setup system. But all the people I know who may have had slight issues with the start of the year, now totally sorted, proving to be really, really solid brakes and phenomenally powerful. Again, rode them a lot on the Stump Jumper launch out in Vancouver Island. And they are, what's interesting, I thought, that's way more power than I need. But by the end of a long day, and you suddenly go, oh, my arms are just so much more chilled. They're not blowing up. I don't look like Popeye. This is great. So if you're into your steep riding, particularly technical, where, that real sensitive feel matters a lot and you don't want your arms to be pumping up and blowing up, then super powerful brakes are a great way to go about it. And it seems like SRAM have totally nailed it with the Maven. And I also, SRAM are doing a great job at the moment with just some really simple, setup things. And we'll even talk about this on my sort of overlying winner of the year. But, spoiler alert, but things like the fact that they provide you, if you buy the full Maven aftermarket kit, you actually get a load of different rotor sizes. And what they do is they suggest you just try all the different rotor sizes until you find the one that starts to mark up. It starts to look a bit cooked, looks a bit heated up, looks a bit bronzed. Because then you're using the brakes to their maximum advantage. If you're running a 220, but it's still looking all clean and chromed, then clearly you're not really running it that hard and you're not getting the best out of the brakes. You're just adding excess weight. So go down to a 200. And if your 200's looking clean, but on the other hand, if you're making your 180s look like a motorbike exhaust on the first descent, then move up a size. And it's just a really, really clever way of putting people on the right brake for them. And we're going to see them as stock on a whole bunch of bikes, because let's face it, most riders aren't getting any lighter, and e-bikes, they're a lot harder to stop than even the conventional bike. So, Mavens are probably going to be big. Well, they are big, and they've got big power. Another brake, been very impressed by this year, the Lewis LV2 and LV4 brakes. I used them for a bit over winter. The LV2s, very impressed by them. Yeah, they look a bit like trick stuff, but they're not the same design. And rather than costing €1,000 each, you can get a pair of them, so that's both ends without rotors, for about £300. And my mate Amy has been using them on her enduro bike, the LV4, and on the LV2s on the intense race bike we built up for her. And she's put hundreds and hundreds of hours into them and been really, really impressed with her consistently. She's a nightmare for killing kit, to be honest, which is brilliant from my point of view, because it means pretty much everything I give to her is generally a death sentence for that component. But Lewis brakes have come out of it really, really well. She's had a couple of glitches with levers, but again, really easily sorted on the trail because they're a fairly straightforward mechanical system. And they've just been very, very good for the money. But again, quite pokey. Both brakes quite pokey for their category. So the brake that I've really gravitated towards because, you know, we are talking gravity and brakes, is the new Hope XCR Pro X4, something like that. I don't even know what they call it. Why they didn't call it the XCD or something like that. Because it's basically, I mean, I had a go at them about this at Core, probably even before Core, years ago, when they had the XCR brake with the carbon fibre lever, and they had the Tech E4 with the, you know, bells and whistles, all the dials, agricultural lever, and the 4-pot caliper. I was like, great, can you put them two together and make like a down country brake? And they were like, I don't know, what's down country? We're off of the Lancashire border and we haven't heard of it. I'm like, oh my God, if you never read Pink Bike, it's like down country is the thing. So anyway, fast forward to Core this year, and in the foyer where they always have their nice stand, not only with the new carbon cranks, but new XCR X4 brakes, which are basically, as I kind of suggested to them, the XCR lever, so lighter lever, 40 grams lighter than Tech 4, doesn't have the bells and whistles, has a carbon fibre lever, which isn't made by Hope, that's brought in. Everything else, as typical for Hope, built in the factory in Barwick, Barnoldswick, however you want to say it, and then mated to that 4-pot brake on the back end. Now again, it's only 40 grams, it's 40 grams heavier than an XCR 2-pot, which is the X2, and it's 40 grams lighter than the Tech 4 E4, and you're losing that bite point and contact adjustment. Sorry, you still get bite point, but you don't get contact point for the pads. So, and it's significantly less powerful, between 15 to 20% less powerful than Tech 4 E4. However, that brake's too powerful for me, really. I've got it on the Trek Top Fuel build I've built up, but to be honest, it's a bit much for me. My worst habit when riding is braking too much, is doing a bit of brake dragging. However, that XCR seems to be the absolute sweet spot for me personally. So for most people, I'm probably going to say Tech 4 E4 is the way to go. It's not much heavier. It's not much heavier, and you get a lot more usable power. But for me, or for anyone who wants a brake that hasn't just got a lot of usable power, but significantly better heat resistance. So for longer descents, or again, just not changing feel when you're dragging it. Even for bike packing, things like that. That's where I boiled up the X2 before, was bike packing on the Chisel in Wales. Whereas that E4 caliper, that 4-pot caliper, seems to cope, as you might expect, with heat a whole lot better. So for me, that hybrid brake is the sweet spot. Which brings me to, before I started doing this, I was like, right, make sure you do a number before each one, and then it'll be dead easy to split up into shorts, because you're meant to be doing this professionally now, and go, right, when you do a video, do it so you can split it up into shorts easily. So I think I've done numbers on about 2, maybe 3. It's not going brilliantly. So what I'll probably go back is go back and announce them all separately. I could do that. Anyway, product number 6. So no, 4, isn't it? Because you go in reverse, because it's a top 10. In at number 4 of my top 10 of 2024 is the Rockshox Silo. And yes, you might remember, if you've been around a long old time, the original Silo must be about, no, it won't be 20 years. It is. No, it's pre-Pike, wasn't it? It was pre-Pike. So it is getting on. I remember it must be about 2001, 2002, I think. Yeah. Because my mate Russ had one on his Maverick. And again, gold. First Rockshox sport with a quick release called the Tullio, after Tullio Campagnolo didn't invent, but kind of mass produced the skewer for road bikes, the QR skewer for road bikes. Anyway, first quick release 20mm axle in a fork was the original Silo, and had a weird plasticky U-turn knob for changing travel as well, and wasn't a bad fork, but is irrelevant to this conversation because it's 22 years ago, so best stop going on and being historical and whimsical and tell you the new RS Silo, 35mm legs, so good stout fork, same basic chassis as a Pike stroke Lyric in terms of stiffness. It even has the same premium bushings. It uses Maxima Plush dynamic suspension fluid, which again is their top level fluid in there. Runs from 130 to 160 mil of travel. And the big news about this is the Isolator RC damping cartridge in there, which is a proper damper IFP equipped. So you've got that internal floating piston separating the air and the oil and kind of compensating for the oil compression and just making the fork feel way more consistent and way more controlled, a whole lot further down rowdy, janky descents than most forks that you can buy for less than 500 quid. I think it's listed at 580 or something like that. But it actually you can find it online for less than 500 quid already. And hopefully we're going to see it on a whole bunch of bikes. I first met it on the new Boardman MTR, where I said, well, it's a bit heavy for that because it's like 2.3 kilos. But if you're going up to 150, 160, 2.3 kilos isn't that bad in weight, you know. It's kind of comparable to a Lyric. But that Isolator RC damper gives you kind of a more trail feel because it's open, climb and then locked. So again, you know, 3 useful modes for all sorts of, and what I found was, although climb is unsurprisingly meant for climbing, that actually gives it more low speed compression. So it's really, really good if you're pushing berms and sort of pumping on a more sort of bike parky style berm track that's groomed, and then fully open it for the more janky stuff. But basically, an affordable fork, 500 quid is affordable for a fork these days. What are we talking about? But that is the reality that you're going to see on a lot of lower and mid-priced bikes, but will perform pretty close to a premium fork. And again, it's kind of that classic Rockshox win of being really, really easy to set up in terms of having a broad bandwidth of settings. So you have got low speed compression, you have got rebound, but it's actually quite hard to set it up badly. It's got that debonair air spring in there, and it's designed to sit a bit higher. So it's kind of going back to the sweet spot of where Rockshox trail forks were a couple of generations ago in how it sits on the trail. And it's just a great fit and forget fork, but with proper premium guts that give it excellent longevity. And yeah, I will be doing a separate review of that. In fact, looking at this, what do I need? I've done the Bridgedale socks. Need to do the XCR4. Someone called me out on that earlier. Definitely need to do Peaty's grips. Need to do RS Silo. But I have covered the first in my top 3 countdown, which is the new WTV fabric from 7 Mesh, particularly on. See, now I'm having doubts. Is it WTV or is it WVT? Even my phone's having doubts. Hey Siri, search WVT 200 from 7 Mesh. Well, that's good. As ever, Siri has told me that Happy Pump product, and it seems to be a thing for watch. Oh God, me and technology, it's not great. Well, apparently, yeah, it's water volume displacement anyway. But give me a moment. What I'm talking about here is 7 Mesh's new fabric. Why am I putting it on? You can't really see what I'm putting it on. Basically, waffle backed, close knit, windproof, showerproof, relatively smell-proof fabric. Not as warm as the Chilco Anorak, which was WVT, WTV, whichever it is, 300. But it's so warm, I can't wear it much. And since this spruce jacket arrived, I've pretty much lived in it. This is kind of the roady, gravelly fit with back pockets on it. They do a anorak as well, or a hoodie, which I've just told my mate Ollie to get, because it's pretty much the perfect blend of just enough weatherproofing. So Ollie was like, yeah, but will it keep me dry in a really bad storm? And I was like, in a short burst, it'll keep you warm because it slows down the water coming in long enough, but it's got enough thermal property to it, so it hasn't got that horrible clammy feel. of a waterproof, and yet it dries really quick and it breathes exceptionally well. So the rest of the time you aren't just getting cold and clammy and wet from sweating. So while I wasn't a massive fan of 7-mesh air map, this WTV in the spruce range that they've just bought in for, and there's roadie ones as well, can't remember, for roadie gravel ones as well. Watch the video, there's a whole video on this jacket, but anyway, this I think is a brilliant fabric, particularly for the UK, where it's not crazy cold a lot of the time, but it's often just that horrible damp which gets you cold conditions. This is, I would say, far better than a dedicated waterproof, and I've been super impressed by it. And you can look forward to more products based on this kind of performance coming out from a brand that I'm doing some work with, and a Peaty stylie who you may have noticed cropping up in my feeds already. Yeah, so I'll just say it. Polaris bikewear. Again, this kind of practical performance that's really tailored to not just general riding, you know, proper riding, rather than just going, hey, it's super waterproof when you just sweat inside. We're going to be concentrating on some really good garments going forwards, but none of those are ready yet. So while you're waiting on them, I would thoroughly recommend the 7-mesh. And again, always really good, eco credentials, blue sign approved. I think this is, can't remember the exact percentage, but certainly a high percentage of recycled fabric. And they do like repairs if you crash in them and stuff like that. And just generally a thoroughly good company. But, as I was going to say, but they are expensive. But then again, if you're wearing it all the time, not really expensive and much better value than most waterproofs. Although, oh no, I definitely can't tell you about that. Can't tell you about that. You have to wait till later in next year before I can tell you about that. But yeah, I got an interesting email from them about testing some new fabric. Anyway, right, top 2. We go from WVT 200 to the top 2. And I had a bit of a dilemma here. We could have gone one of either way. Both of these, because they don't overlap. The Venn diagram of users, even though they sit in exactly the same part of, well, the bike and of technology, the overlap between these is non-existent. Because one is used on bikes that probably cost, topping out at 1,500 quid, probably start about 500 quid. The other, in itself, is 4,000 quid. But as I put Boardman's Kanzo, not Boardman, Voodoo's Kanzo as the winner of my bike of the year, you know, power to the people kind of protest up against the ridiculous rising cost of bikes and bike kit in general, I thought, let's flip it on its head for this time. Let's go power of the people, Citizen Smith getting position 2, which I'm delighted to say goes to the Shimano Cues, which, again, hadn't used it much because not many people seem to have spec'd it until late this year. 10 speed, quite heavy because there's a lot of steel in it. It's link glide. It's deliberately designed to be tough and long lasting. So they've just left a little bit more material in it all the way around. Chain sets come with steel chain rings on them, but oh my Lord, it might be heavy on the scales, but there's such a light action in terms of shifting. And it comes in various builds. You can get it. I mean, it's all, again, a bit baffling when it launched because it comes in different brands. You can get Olivia, get Dior, you can get, I think this is right anyway. Should have made some notes, but you know, 10, 11, 12, oh, is 12 definitely Dior? Anyway, regardless, whichever point you pick, I've used the 10 speed Cues and I've used 12 speed Dior. Absolutely phenomenal in terms of just shifting smoothness, accuracy, just great. Absolutely great. Even the cassette spread on the 10 speed, I think is really, really good. I think it's 1148. And it's just a great spread. I think it's actually better than like the 1051s and 1052s from higher end Shimano and higher end SRAM. It just works really, really well. lasts for bloody ever, and costs remarkably little considering how long it's going to run for. So, yeah, big thumbs up. I mean, Shimano have kind of been my go-to for lower end group sets for, well, as long as I can remember. And frankly, they haven't done much with their top end stuff for a while. Every year we're like, yeah, is this the year we see new stuff from like XT, GRX, the higher stuff? And they do a little bit of tweaking. They've done a little bit of tweaking on GRX and added a few options, but not really. XT's ancient, but still brilliant. I mean, that's kind of the problem. It still works really, really well. And XTR is great, still the top of a lot of privateer racers and unsponsored riders for the reason it is very, very durable. It's light, it's got an aluminium crank, and just works really, really well. But the good news is, almost certainly, pretty much everyone I've said, pretty much everyone I know who, with an inside line on this, says we will be seeing fresh new Shimano next year. So, but, again, that's going to come in, actually not strictly true from what I've heard, but definitely it's not going to supersede the lowest level of Cues. So if you're looking for a budget bike transmission that will perform pretty much, as long as you don't mind a bit of extra weight, perform in terms of feel under your thumb and shifting, as well as nearly all the conventional analog group sets out there, then I'd go Shimano Cues. You know, just save your money. And you can invest it in other stuff, like, you know, if you're building up a cheap bike, you know, get some really good tyres, or some nice Peaty's grips, or some nice Bridgedale socks to ride in, because you really, in terms of simple, durable function, you don't need anything more than Shimano Cues. And where it will really be brilliant, and this is what I've got a set now that I'm going to set up on a e-bike, because that's what I'm leading to, brilliant for e-bike use as well. Because again, that link glide, that extra durability, just perfectly designed for e-bikes, which is a shame we don't seem to be seeing it on many of them. I think Merida are the only people I've noticed who are fitting link glide on a lot of their mountain bikes at the moment. So big thumbs up to Merida. Again, company has shown a lot of smart thinking this year, but yeah, crikey, you know your intention to keep it a bit shorter and sweeter than the last one really hasn't gone to plan when you burn out a complete GoPro battery filming it. But then again, there are lots of very well scripted and very well rehearsed and professionally produced top 10 videos I'm sure you can find on the interwebs if you go looking for them. I'm not really interested in adding to that pile because I'd rather give you, hopefully, a bit more of a rounded and overview on why I've talked about the products, bring some other comparisons in, and if that means I fly off at random tangents, I'm afraid you're just going to have to put up with that. But anyway, here we are, back again, just in time for my top product of my top 10 new things in 2024, which is Sram Red XPLR Axis. Or those words in a different order. But basically, SRAM's dedicated new gravel group set. But wait. If you're a mountain biker, don't run away just yet. At the moment, you can't use it on a mountain bike. SRAM are throwing various obstacles in the way because it was a great Zoom call when they were talking about it. They were like literally talking about we know what you're like, Esteban. We know you're going to want, I mean, I put Sram Red Axis on my chisel to save some weight on it, and it worked brilliantly. Slightly worrying because it doesn't have a knock clutch on it. Whatever they call it, the one that knocks the rear mech out of the way. And neither does the new Red XPLR Axis. Let's just call it SRAM Red for the time being. But, and it can't, because of the cage length, it can't cope with the pullback of a full suspension system. So, currently, not a mountain bike system. However, the shifting on it, 13 speed, so it's got more gears than any other SRAM system. It's packed into the same space as the 12 speed. And the shifting, oh my God. Because unlike T-Type, where it only shifts at specific points in the cassette rotation, and so it's quite a slow shift because it's designed to be used under full pressure by, well, let's say this, people who are bit cretinous with their changing. They're like, I have no experience with transmissions that needed to be nurtured and cared about. I just want to change gear now. And I'm not saying that's just for e-bikers, but let's just say the combination of riders who don't have that finesse for shifting and an extra few hundred watts does not play well with chains, cassettes, and rear mechs. So that's why T-Type is like it is. Now, Red Explorer takes that same T-Type direct mount architecture, so it's bolted solidly into the frame, so you do need a UDH hanger, but instead of only shifting specific parts of the cassette and actually knowing where the bike is in terms of changing. I don't know how it does that, but it seems to anyway. This is properly instant, like bang, 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 bang. Super quick. So it's got all the one thing that most people complained about, most experienced mountain bikers complained about with T-Type when it came out, was the fact that the shifting is slow. So now we have all the advantages of a much stiffer, more durable, modular replacement rear mech, and phenomenal, it's still phenomenal shifting under power and very, very accurate, but with that instant speed that you'll get from an analog or from Di2 or from, proper thumb shifters. And that, hopefully, is something that we'll see to appearing on SRAM XC trail group sets very, very shortly. And again, that's another bit I can't say. But I think we can expect something along those lines designed for flat bars. Flat bars, maybe slightly riser bars as well, at the least. But even in the gravel sense, if you're, the rest of the group set is absolutely brilliant. You've got more powerful brakes because they've changed the lever point. You've got really, really nicely shaped hoods. And that thing I was talking about earlier where SRAM make it really, really easy to set you up, they've put the markings on the hood, little parrot. All right. I think people are texting me telling me to shut up. Oh, Ollie's go. Honestly, you see, this is why I don't give people advice. As you know, saying Ollie was I said, what should he buy? Should he buy the Sky Pilot waterproof or should he buy the Cash Anorak? And I said, go for the Spruce, because if you say you run hot, you don't need the Cash. He's bought the Cash, hasn't he? See? 28 years of bloody experience riding every bit of kit I could possibly do. Do people still take any notice? Hopefully, occasionally. But Ollie ain't one of them. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, great shape, great braking. Comes with a dedicated bar, so the hoods and levers mould into that really, really nicely. Just properly, I reckon, the pinnacle of SRAM transmissions at the moment. And again, you can run it mullet if you want, so you can mix it with a rear mech off a mountain bike group set to get the 1052 cassette on there. Between me and Ryan, we must be getting on for 1,000 kilometres deep into it. Still absolutely flawless. The only issue is, it costs the best part of £4,000. So, you could buy a really nice entire gravel bike for the price of that gravel bike transmission. Oh, new hammerhead as well, which I'll be testing. There is a full test on Sram Red Explorer on the channel, but I didn't have the new hammerhead at the time. The new computer that goes with it, but I have now, so I'll be doing a review on that. But while at the moment it's crazy expensive and crazy exotic, like everything else, you're going to see that tech trickle down. So, this year I've been testing bikes with the new, you saw, again, that the Boardman, most recent gravel bike I tested, has the new SRAM Apex Explorer on it, Axis. And that's, in terms of touch at the lever, you really can't tell whether you're using that or something like Force Explorer. It's just, it's just heavier material, so it's heavier, but all the mechanics, all the transmitters and everything like that, and the way it actually works, the same. So not only are we going to see, hopefully, that trickle down of 13-speed SRAM gravel tech, but we're also going to see super fast shifting, super accurate and durable 13-speed shifting for mountain bikes coming out shortly. And with that, I kind of think we're wrapped up. I always kind of have a slight fear about just how long I've been rabbiting on, but If you've made it this far, then congratulations, commiserations, but most of all, thanks. Like I say, if you've enjoyed it, tell your mates about it. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. If you want to chuck some money my way so I can carry on calling this a career, as I career about through the woods and career about through the greatest and latest products, then give me a subscribe on Patreon, give it a thumbs up, like. But most of all, thanks for all your support and views in 2024. Oh, on the note of, I said latest and greatest, there will be a Howlers one as well. I am going to do a top 10. It's the one everybody asked about. There will be a top 10 disappointing products of 2024. Like I say, there will be a top 10 things I only realised how good they were in 2024, where I have to apologise about some things I'm going through. And there will be a things I am most to be excited about in 2025, because it looks like being a pretty good year for tech already. So even though the mountain bike industry appears to still be on its arse, because it produced way too much in COVID, we are still getting some tech bleeding through that is going to be bleeding interesting. But for now, I've been Guy Kestevan on Guy K's TV, talking about the kit I have thoroughly enjoyed riding in 2024. So, if you've still got some space on your Christmas list, then this has been the nice to put on your Santa list, and I'll be talking about the naughty later. So, see you for that one, and have a cracking ride in the meantime.